Welcome to What Lies Ahead. I'm your host, Chris Raffini, lead singer of the Long Island band Overthrow. On my podcast, I explore everything related to the hardcore scene through the eyes of artists, promoters, and record labels. As always, please like or subscribe on all social media platforms. For more information and updates, check out our Instagram page at @WhatLiesAhead_podcast and find us on Facebook by searching What Lies Ahead. Now, on to the show. Today's guest is Danielle Dombrowski, who's been taking photos of bands in the hardcore scene for over 30 years. Basically close to any well-known picture or release, CD, vinyl you have seen has been taken by her. We'll talk about how she approaches shooting live shows. Danielle got established in the scene and how that work led into wedding photography. And we'll also get into her career as a hairdresser and running her own salon. Danielle, what's going on? Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. Obviously know you well. We were even talking before this. You didn't shoot us, but you did the split CD. You took a Voice of Reason, our Voice of Reason Overthrow split CD, 1998. You took that great shot by Voice of Reason that was on the front of the cover. But I got to talk with you a few weeks ago when we played AMH with Killing Time and Shutdown. You took some amazing shots there, and really fortunate enough to have you on here to talk about. Was it 1994, give or take, was your
Yeah.
first show? Wow. So it's over 30 years. You have been taking some of the most iconic photos of in hardcore in the hardcore scene. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's super awesome that I guess people care about someone that would document the scene.
No, it's great. If you look, there's obviously it's you, there's BJ Pappas, there's Carl Gunhouse, there's Steve Levy now, and it's like, there's the Mount Rushmore of photographers in hardcore, and you are one of them for sure. So it's pretty awesome to hear about this, hear about your process, and that you're still running strong, loving it, after all these years. But I guess we'll start from the beginning. What was your first, because it kind of builds right into everything of where you
Yeah.
started.
Yes.
So what was your first interest in music that led to hardcore?
I kind of found hardcore by accident. Growing up, my parents were like big, big into classic rock, product of the 70s. Like my dad was actually at Woodstock, which is fairly close to where I live
Mhm.
now. Bethel Woods is an awesome venue there if anybody hasn't been there yet, but on the original Woodstock site. So my dad was at Woodstock as a Boy Scout, like flew in to do some first aid stuff and left. But he was into every kind of classic rock from like Zeppelin to the Doors and Sabbath, and everything in between. So that's what I grew up listening to. So, obviously, what ties into that from my era in the 90s is kind of, mid 90s, I would say grunge music, Pearl Jam and everything related to them, Nirvana and all that. And metal music was kind of all the 80s hair bands were still hanging around then. So I was always super into, you know, the heavier side of music, influenced, I guess, from my father's choice of music. So started out there, and I still almost on a daily basis listen to all the same music from back then. My favorite, my favorite band ever in the world, Led Zeppelin.
Mhm. Never stop what you were like. You never forget what you were into when you were a kid, right? It just,
Nope,
right? Hmm.
never. And I mean, I do like some current music too, but uh, definitely always go back to the originals
Cool.
that I grew up listening to.
Hmm. Now, how did that you slowly built in? Because that's classic rock, obviously. Classic, as
Yeah.
classic as you can be with Led Zeppelin. So, how did that build into then? Did you said on accident you fell into hardcore, right?
Yeah,
So,
so
how
I'll
did
tell
that
you
happen?
funny story is I used to I had this group of friends in high school. I was kind of friends with everybody, some, nerdy kids, the jocks, the popular kids and everybody, but I had this one kind of quiet friend and he always sat in the back of my photography class, which I also fell into by accident. I had to take an extra course my junior year, and then I continued at my senior year. So I chose photography because I finished up all my, I guess what you could say, for the Regents exam, my classes that were required for that in 10th and 11th grade. So I was going to have too many study halls. So I take this photography class, and I had this friend Brian, and he always had these hardcore shirts on. I specifically remember him wearing an Endpoint shirt, and I was like, who is that? So I kind of like got into hardcore from him and his brother. And I wouldn't even say I got into it, but I became aware that it existed then, but not really like back then we didn't have the internet and phones with texting and everything, and I couldn't Google these bands, or there was no way to find this music in my parents' little apartment when I didn't drive or anything like that. So I ended up in my photography class, I made friends with a group of people from a neighboring town when I was going to vocational school for hair through a friend of mine that was in my photography class, was in a graphic design class with these kids from a band from Goshen, New York, because I'm from Middletown, New York. So this band 99 Cents from Goshen, and they needed photos for something. And my friend was like, oh, I have a friend that's taking photography, so maybe she can do these photos for you. So I met them, and so they were more punk, but the scene is it intertwines with, all different kind of subgenres, I guess you could say, as you know. So they happened to open up for a bunch of hardcore bands. So the first concert that I ever even went to was the first concert that I took pictures at.
That's
And that
crazy.
was
Yeah.
yeah, right, very crazy. But that was December 26th, 1994, at a place called Sportland in Middletown, New York. And it was 99 Cents who opened up for Biohazard, who I just shot the other night in Amityville. So they were the headliners, Marauder, and a band called Stomp Box, who I don't know anything about. But
Mhm.
I am still not sure if I shot anybody other than 99 Cents, because that was back when I was in photography in high school, and then I transitioned to college for photography right after that. So I used to actually print all my photos then, and I had a binder with all my negatives, and they're buried in a closet under my stairs in my house. One of these days, I'm going to pull it out, and I have a negative scanner now that I got during the COVID shutdown. So I'm going to pull that out and see, because I could possibly have some hidden old photos of those
Mhm.
bands. But that would be super awesome. I
That's a
gotta get on that
you know,
soon.
think about a
Yeah,
crazy first show. Like you're going to shoot a friend's band, right? And it's a biohazard marauder show. What
I
was
know.
your reaction? Like, did you know what to expect? Because I'm sure at that point that was like prime. That was 94, you said. So that's like
Yeah.
prime biohazard at that point. So were you did you know what to expect from like the crowd reaction, or you were like, hey, I'm going to
Nope.
just shoot the band, you know?
I had
Yeah.
no idea what any of that was like
Hmm.
whatsoever. But from that point forward, I shot 99 Cents a few other times and did some like group photos of them. And then they opened up for, or played along with some other hardcore bands. And then I started going to shows at the Avalon in Newburgh.
Hmm.
Started out with them. But then you know how it is. You go to something and you meet friends and you meet people in other bands. So then I just got exposed to the scene more and more every show I went to. And back then when I was young, first started driving, you can't really go too far. So Newburgh and the Avalon was like the place where they had a lot of the shows back then. So I shot a ton of bands very early on
Hmm.
there, like that was probably the first time I shot Earth Crisis. I remember shooting Killing Time there, Ignite, um, Orange 9 millimeter, like just
Heavy
a
hitters.
ton of,
Yeah.
yeah. Also, of course, local heroes of mine here, All Out War, shot them a bunch there. And actually, I believe that the inside, the insert on the CD for Truth in the Age of Lies is from there, from the
Oh, cool.
Avalon. Yeah. So just kind of grew from there.
Now, at
And then
that point, I apologize, Dan, as it was
yeah.
building, were were you just going like a lot and you were just like, I'm going, you just got so into it, into the scene, into the culture, you were shooting it. Um, or was it kind of a little of both where you were doing that, but also bands were like now reaching out to you?
Well, I became known as, to people that didn't know me, Photo Girl. So, because I never went to a show without my camera back then. And I
Hmm.
actually ended up with, on my first like nice car, my license plate I had was Photo Girl, and I had it
Oh,
for
okay.
many years. PHOTOGRL. It was so
Mhm.
funny. So people got to know me by that. And my old friend Nikki was Nikki Nails, and she used to, because she did nails and I do hair, and we used to go to shows together forever. So that's what we were known as, Photo Girl and Nikki Nails. I'm not sure that so many people even knew my real name back then. But yeah, so I started going to shows at the Avalon and shooting more and more bands. Then I started traveling down to the city to shows. And one day at this point now I'm going to college for photography up at Sullivan County. I did go for a summer to Ithaca College for one semester too in between there. Did not go to any shows then because I was trapped there with no car.
Mm.
But not that I don't even know if there's venues up in Ithaca, but I started printing all my own photos while I was in college of I would go to shows like two, three times a week, and I ran the darkroom at college to help pay for my tuition. I'd have to get there super early and hook up, set up everything, all the chemicals, and get everything warmed up and ready for the day. And I would just be in there before the class, a couple hours before class, so I would shoot, or I mean, print all my photos from the shows the weekend before, kind of just look through at the negatives and be like, all right, this one looks good. So long story short, I ended up somehow shooting a bunch of victory bands. So I put a package together and I just mailed them to the Victory Records address that I
Oh,
found on like some CD and wrote a letter to them that I had these pictures of a bunch of their bands. And I never, like, for a few months, never heard anything from them. But one day I came home from work and I had a message on my, old school answering machine from Maria at Victory Records saying somehow whoever opened it like plopped the folder of these prints on her desk and it got buried in paperwork. So she had was cleaning off her desk and found it and was like, "Hey, this is my phone number. Give me a call back. We'd love to use some of your photos for things and maybe have you specifically shoot some shows for us going forward."
oh,
So then I
cool.
kind of did the same thing for like every other label then that was bigger and hardcore, like Equal Vision, Revelation, trying to think what else. Well, basically for a while I was shooting shows for those three labels. So that was kind
Pretty
of
much
how
the
I
big ones
got,
at that point, right? I mean,
yeah,
Revelation, Victory, and Equal Vision.
yeah. So they would call me up and just say, "Hey, we got this show going on here. Can you go to it?" And the rest is history. I started going to more and more, shooting more and more. Then, yeah, so I used to, when I would see a band and I shot them, say like a couple months ago. Now at this point, I had stopped going to college because I was really busy with the hairdressing
Hmm.
and I didn't have time to work full time because I was working like 50 hours a week in the salon and go to college. And to be honest, photography isn't really, I would say, something that you need a degree to do if you're not going to be working for, say, like a magazine or a publicist or something
Uh-huh.
to that effect. So my main income was coming from hairdressing at that point. So now I was like, I'm not gonna, finish the school. I went for a year. I learned a lot. I had a good time with it, but I was like, I'm just gonna just going to go to shows and shoot them and work at the salon. So that's what I was doing for a while. But so I started shooting some, like a lot of bands repetitively. So because I didn't have a dark room, I started using like the 1 hour photo lab at
Mm.
Walmart, and they
Yeah.
would give me the free doubles. So I would make a separate package with like my name and date on it. And I actually had this little stamp made that said like photo by Danielle Dombrowski. And
Okay.
it's funny because anybody that I shot back in the 90s, they always come across these old prints that they have.
And it has that.
Yeah, and they know I took it because my name was stamped on the back. But I used to sit for hours and do that when I picked up the pictures from Walmart. I would weed out the bad ones. And before I got the stamp, I would write my name and date of the show. And like maybe I think back then I had I had my website back then started,
Hmm.
which was daniellesphotogallery.com. So my friend was doing that for me because I knew nothing about it. So it was really funny. I would stamp or write on the back of all these photos. I'd lay them all out on my bedroom floor and just go along with the stamp. But I
Hmm.
guess, I was like trying to figure out how to promote myself, and that was like the best way I could come up with at like 18 years old.
No, but that's it's amazing. It's like
Yeah.
right. You're 18 years old and you have this. It's like a business kind of sense of things that you're doing almost in a way, right? To get yourself out there.
Yeah.
My question was, you were talking about 50 hours, and then we're going to get into the salon in a little bit, and what you're doing now with that. But you were doing that. You were taking 50 hours a week. Sounds like at that point it was really taking off. That you were probably not only being asked by these labels, but other bands for you to come and take pictures of them. Did you feel any like overwhelmed by that at all or any pressure in doing any of that stuff just because there's so many hours in the day? Or you were just having so much fun with it, you didn't even realize that that all was going on
Yeah,
at
I
that
didn't
point.
realize it.
Mhm.
A lot of shows I kind of live in an area where we only had a couple venues. I'm upstate New York, but not the upstate that when I'm here and I think of upstate being like Rochester,
Mhm.
Buffalo, whatever, but I'm only an hour from Manhattan.
Yeah, so
So,
close.
yeah, so I had to start traveling for shows and it got further and further. Because there were a lot of great shows in Boston and DC. And I remember a lot of times I would get in my car after work, drive all the way to Boston, like 3 hours and 15 minutes, go to the show, drive all the way home, get home from like at like 5 a.m., get up, get ready, go to work, and do it all over again.
It's what you
But
all you
that's what
knew.
we do. That's
Yeah.
what we do for the love of hardcore, right?
Right, right, right.
But it became my social life. So that's what I was doing, usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday of every week, and on occasion, oh, the weekday one. But yeah, it seemed like everything was so far away back then. But when you're young like that, you don't fall asleep driving. I
It's a
still lived
different
at home
feel,
with my
right? Yeah.
parents, so you know, I didn't have like house responsibilities and all that kind of stuff going
Right.
on. So I had a lot of outside of work free time for my photos. But
Hmm.
yeah, those were the best times. That's when I, made a lot of really good friends in the hardcore scene, and it was not only about taking pictures, but it becomes your social life. You're out hanging out with my friends.
Yeah, and going out and friends from
Yeah.
obviously all different states and different areas and all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff of people you know. That's what's great. That's what's great about, the scene, you know. One of the things I wanted to ask, it's like over, I guess over, there's so many ways to go with this. What are some of maybe your favorite bands that you've shot?
Oh my God. I had a feeling you were going to ask that. So I made a little list here. Um, but I can tell you it's not necessarily like tied to specific bands, but it's more, I think, the crowd reaction. I mean, obviously, when a band plays, if they have a really good stage presence, it kind of reflects into the crowd. So you get a band that
Mhm.
has a high energy level and that's the kind of crowd that delivers. And those are the best photos, shooting a band like that. Um, if I can think back to the 90s, some of the bands that like really wowed me with the crowd interaction, definitely Earth Crisis. And I was shooting them, I started shooting them back like when Firestorm first came out and then
Yeah.
Destroy the Machines. And that was like really their high point. And the same thing with Hatebreed, when Under the Knife came out and then Satisfaction followed up. Those were the best shows back then.
Mhm.
Just the crowd was just insane and just some of the greatest photos that I took. I mean, One King Down too, because they were not far from me. Converge. I shot Burn back then. Great reaction. Compared to also Madball back then too.
Mhm.
And still to this day, all these bands like that I'm mentioning now, they still play and they still have the same crowd reaction. It's just an older crowd now.
Yeah.
So when you have some of the older bands, but so it might not be quite as crazy, but the energy is still there,
Still
you
feeling it,
know?
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, any band that Ray Capo and Porcell were in too. Just, you know, Youth of Today, Shelter. And one band that I love to shoot that I particularly want to mention because I believe this was the first time I had this feeling when I saw a band live that when I'm shooting, I'm not always paying attention to the music
Mhm.
as
That
much
was one of
as
my, I was
like,
going to ask you that. Yeah. Like you're just so
yeah,
probably into shooting,
like
right?
yes, I know like a lot of the songs. I mean, obviously I listen to it too, so I know a lot of the music, but if I don't know a band and they're playing, I'm usually just kind of watching them and watching the crowd, and you can kind of, from the experience of doing it, like I can feel when something's going to happen with the music, that somebody's going to jump or, stage dive or whatever it may be that makes a good photo. But one band that I remember, I saw them at Middlesex College. I don't know when the year was, and I don't remember the rest of the show. But when they played, I was on the front side of the stage, kneeling down. And I just was like, wow, this band is like fucking amazing. And they're still one of my favorites to this day. And I just picture back to the first time I heard them and I felt like a connection really big with the music. And that was Cave In.
Mm.
And so I started shooting a lot of Cave In shows and bands related to them, like to their area of, you know, geographically bands that came from that area. And actually I now that I think about it, I think they were playing with Converge, which makes sense because they're all friends and they're from that
Hmm.
area, but also started shooting bands that were a little more of that sound, kind of like ISIS for one, and the whole Hydra Head Records group going on up there. But yeah, I just absolutely love shooting Cave In. Like they're just great people, and Stephen Brodsky is just super talented. But I just remember that's when I felt like a real connection to that. I don't know what you would call it, but that style of hardcore.
Uh,
It was my first time I was exposed to that style of hardcore, as opposed to more like the straight edge type victory type of stuff, or the New York City like DMS type of
right.
hardcore stuff too, like Sick of It All and Agnostic Front and all that. They all kind of have a different connection with the crowd and a different just energy overall. But when I saw Cave In for the first time, I was definitely like, wow, this is really awesome. And funny thing, I had to years later when iPods came out, my dad wanted me to put music on his iPod because he didn't have a computer and he didn't know how to work any of that. So I snuck Cave In on there, my dad's iPod, and he absolutely loved them. But
That's
like
cool.
if I were to have put Earth Crisis or Hatebreed on there, he would have been like, what the hell is this? But
Mhm.
yeah, he loved Cave In also. But
That's
yeah,
cool.
so that's how I started really connecting after that and paying attention to other styles of hardcore.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
actually maybe so. I wanted to get into your process and approach in terms of how you go about shooting a live show, but made me think for a sec. So it kept building. You had record labels approaching you from Victory, Revelation, people calling you, I'm sure, on the side and doing that stuff. It kept building and building. So at what point were like major label bands that you've maybe shot or that you had an opportunity maybe to shot or like festivals that maybe you ended up getting to? Did that happen at that any point in time for you in terms of when you were shooting shows?
Yeah, well, some of the hardcore bands ended up getting bigger, and therefore I would have an opportunity to shoot some bigger shows. Like when I was shooting for Equal Vision, they were able to get me press for the Warped Tour.
Mm.
And so I would have to say that some of the bigger bands that I shot were because I shot festivals and I got on with the bands that were, on second and third stage. But when you get a press pass, you can shoot
Go
all the
anywhere, right?
bands.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was actually like my first Warped Tour that I shot, I believe was 1997. And I was like literally on stage with no effects and the Mighty Mighty Boss tones. And,
Mm.
you know, that was like super awesome to me. But, one thing I learned from shooting festivals and shows, I don't know if you noticed, like when you saw me shooting that show that you just played, I actually shot every single band, and I was the only photographer for the first couple bands up there. And I'll tell you why that is. One year I shot the Warped Tour, and I stood on stage with somebody that ended up becoming super famous, and I was like, who is this fool up here? And I didn't take one photo of him, and that was Eminem.
Oh man.
I literally was on stage with Eminem with my camera in my
For the whole
hand,
set.
the whole set, and didn't take one photo of him.
And you had
That
your
was
full
when,
camera in your hand, I'm sure,
oh
right?
yeah,
You were just watching.
that was right when My Name Is came out.
Okay.
And like he was an unknown to everybody. And it was really odd that he got snuck somehow on the Warped Tour.
It's an
But
interesting spot. I remember I went to that Warp Tour. I actually remember him on that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That was
and
before
I
he blew
didn't
up.
shoot
He was
him.
big, but before he really blew up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think I got around to shooting I think it was the next year that Blink 182 was on Warped Tour.
Hmm.
And I was like more a hardcore girl, so I was like on the smaller stage and they played the bigger stage, but they weren't super famous yet. They were somewhere on like they were just starting to grow,
Hmm.
and be exposed to the more mainstream stuff. But yeah, I didn't shoot them because I was overshooting on the smaller stage.
Hmm.
But and then there's some of the bands that I shot that did get big, and once in a while I donate or not donate, but provide those photos to be used of when they were earlier,
Hmm.
you know, early on. But it's pretty cool that like I went on vacation to California once and I got pulled into like I was walking around down Hollywood Boulevard and you know how they give out free tickets to the talk
Hmm.
shows and whatever.
Yeah.
So and they pre-record them hours earlier. So somebody was like, "Oh, you want to come to the Jimmy Kimmel show?" And me and my group of friends were like, "Sure, no problem." And then the singer there from the Boss Tones was, had just become their announcer or whatever he does
Oh.
on the show. And here I am sitting like three rows back, and I had actually talked to him at the Warped Tour, like only, I don't know when, it wasn't short, it was, not too far long before that. So I was like trying to get his attention and wave to him. I was because I was like, I know him. I met him a couple times, and I got yelled at. Yep. They stopped it and re-recorded it.
Oh, did they really? That's actually
Yes.
great.
Yeah,
That's
because I was like, oh my God, like I know them.
Did he ever notice you after that? No, there
No,
was too much going
no.
on, right?
I don't even think he would remember who I was, but
Mhm.
because I'm sure he talks to thousands of
Dozens of
people around the
people.
country all
Yeah.
the time. But
Mhm.
for some reason, in my little mind back then. I thought he might remember me from taking his photos at the Warped Tour, because then I
Hmm.
saw him like I shot that one year. I shot like Warped Tour on I think three locations. It
Oh,
might have been like the Stone Pony and somewhere up in Massachusetts, and maybe they played in like I think they played at the Saratoga
oh, so
up
you were at
there.
Randall's Island. You didn't go to
Oh
that
yeah, yeah, the
Randall's
Randall's
Island?
Island one too. It
Yeah.
might have been that year.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I've shot the Warped Tour at like different locations. So I think I like brought the photos from my little Walmart 1 hour photo thing with my stamp on the back and
Hmm.
gave him that. So and talked to him for like a minute, but I thought he would know me at the Jimmy Kimmel show, and that was so funny. I got yelled at and he had to start it over.
That's actually a funny story. That's actually great. That's amazing that that happened. That actually makes it even
Yeah,
better,
it
right?
was funny.
So I actually want to talk your process and approach with shows. You kind of talked about it a little bit. It's like you almost now you're so you know what is potentially even coming, even if, like you said, you didn't really know a band of like you spoke about the crowd reaction and spoke about things you look for. You take a lot of great individual shots. So when you're shooting a live show, and let's talk now, just because of your experience you have with everything, what's your approach when you're going into a live show? And let's you know what, talk about the show we I just saw yet. You know, the show that we played at AMH. Like you came in, you knew you were taking photos, but you took photo pictures for every band. And that Eminem thing still, you know, you still think about that. So you're taking photos for every band. But what's your approach when you're shooting live shows? Like, do you like how you dealing with lighting, movement? There's other photographers on, you know, on stage, you know, the unpredictability of everything, you know, like how do you like how do you go about all that?
Yeah, that the unpredictability is a big part. Like
Mhm.
sometimes you just get lucky, and sometimes you miss a really good shot because, a stage diver just dove right past you and your legs in the way.
Mhm.
And that kind of stuff happens all the time. Or, your camera drops out of focus or whatever. But it's really funny because when I go to a show, especially well, more at a venue I've never shot at before, I'm one of those people like I'm just a typical girl. Like I way overpack for things. So all my photographer friends have like these little bags, one camera, one lens, one flash, maybe an extra battery, and here I come with my suitcase. I have this suitcase on a roll bag, which I didn't bring to Amityville last week, but that's kind of what I'm known for with my other photographer friends. They all laugh at me, but I'm like, hey, but why do I want to lug all this shit around? But I don't know what lens I'm going to want to use if I've never been to the venue.
Mhm.
So stuff like that, I overpack. I'm to try to be prepared for whatever, but I end up using usually the same camera and the same lens and the same flash at
Mhm.
every show. But like at Amityville, for example, I shoot there not super often, but I've shot there enough to where I know the lighting and I know the
Mhm.
stage size. So I bring most of the stuff that I like, but I still always have to sneak another lens in as a just in case, or
Mhm.
like just in case my lens gets broke or something to that effect. But when I come in, it depends on the venue on my approach. Basically,
Mhm.
a bigger venue where there is not a barrier still. Usually I'm on stage, and that is a whole nother approach than being off stage. On stage, the lighting sometimes is facing the band. Well, it should be most of the time, but
Mhm.
it's not always, which is a really big drag for us photographers if there's just backlighting. But Amityville's great because they have backlighting and front lighting. So I can do my slow shutter effect there. I can do regular stills. I can use special effects filters. I can kind of do whatever. And I know, depending on the band there, if there's going to be a good crowd reaction. So based on that, that's kind of my approach. I guess you could say experience with the venue. If I'm going to be on stage in the front or the back, or if I can move around. Also, like say, for example, a newer venue to me, not a new built venue, but a venue that I haven't been to shoot at, I'll pack, an extra camera and like friggin' five lenses and three batteries and all kinds of shit and lug it
Mhm.
around. And then feel it out for the opener bands. Kind
Okay.
of change things around. Like, do I want it, like, what's going to be the best for, the bands I'm going there specifically to shoot? So I'll try out some like different exposures, flash, no flash, different lenses, different areas of the stage for like the opening bands. But it's gotten to a point now where I can kind of walk in and be like, all right, so this is what I'm going to do based on looking at the lights in this stage.
Mm, okay.
Does it always work out that way? Not necessarily. Sometimes I'm like not in the right spot. Or you're surprised that like one of the opening bands, they don't always usually have the biggest crowd reaction because not because they don't warrant a great crowd reaction, but more because like a lot of people haven't gotten there yet. The floor is not filled in, or whatever, or it's, people just stuck in traffic, don't get there in time,
Mhm.
whatever. So but then there's the time where, like you're standing in the front because the floor is not filled in, and all of a sudden the singer comes out, picks up the microphone, and like everybody goes nuts.
Mm.
So sometimes I'm not prepared for things in that manner.
It depends.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it depends. And then when you have a band where they play like, let's say for example, Hatebreed. Like I've shot Hatebreed in every kind of scenario, like down to playing in someone's basement, playing at a skate shop, playing, on small stages, big stages, festivals, everything. But when you get a band like that that grows and they end up being in a venue where you have a barrier with 3 songs you can shoot and no flash, that is like my nemesis. I
Mm.
absolutely hate that. Especially, I swear to God, every time there's a show like that, the lighting people keep the lights dim for the first 3 songs. And it's just like such a nuisance.
And hard to,
Any of my
yeah, work
photographer
around.
friends are probably like shaking their head along with me right
Mm.
now. But especially my friend JC, he's always like, why?
Mhm.
So there are times where if it's, let's say, if this makes sense, like a smaller, bigger venue where you can actually like talk to the lighting people. I have actually gone up to the lighting people, like say at Brooklyn Paramount, and said, "Hey, can you
Uh,
can you expose the front of the band a little bit
okay.
so we can get better photos? Otherwise, you're backlit. You can't use your flash. The photos are all dark and grainy, and it's a band that you will get like phenomenal, like just from they just have a great energy, great stage presence, and then your photos are all dark except for the lights behind them, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm not gonna lie, like I have like knowing the situation, like put my flash on until I get scolded.
And
That
it'll
happens
happen,
at
right? Yeah.
yeah, that happens at Warsaw. That Warsaw in Brooklyn is known for that, like having just the extreme darkness on the band, but the cool lights behind them. And I've gone and asked them if they could turn up, you know, like, and a lot of the times they don't do it anyway because they
Mhm.
already have a plan or whatever. They have to stick to whatever their stuff is behind the scenes. But so in that case, I'll just use my flash as much as I can
As you
and hope
possibly
that
can
they,
until they tell you otherwise, right?
yeah, I try to, I always try to be friendly with the crew that's working at the venues and the bouncers and all. And sometimes I'm like, for example, with Hatebreed playing there once, I actually was like, before they played, like, I'm speaking for all the photographers. Can we shoot more than 3 songs, please? Because their songs are so short. And the guy was like, all right, because I said, I know they're going to open with some older stuff off Satisfaction. And can we please just have an extra 2 songs and they'll go and talk and work it out. And another place that's really bad for that is God, what's the name of it in Jersey?
The Starland,
Starland.
Starland
Starland
Ballroom.
Ballroom. Yeah, it's so hard to shoot there and they're like on you if you have a flash.
Oh wow. Okay.
But like when last time I shot Bayway there and when I shot E-Town there, like I'll ask them to specifically ask the bouncers to let us use flash for even if
Mhm.
it's just for one song. Like, come on,
Just so you can
you
get,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, and those are big enough stages, and there's a lot of crazy lights to where it doesn't really affect the band. Because sometimes your flash can annoy the band.
Hmm.
Like I've had bands ask me not to use flash, and that's totally fine. I can accommodate that. And I can totally understand a band not wanting a lot of, even though I'm known to be like the flash, like me and Todd Pollock, like definitely flash people. Whereas my friend JC takes phenomenal photos from the crowd without the flash. So everybody kind of has their niche, but I have a really hard time without using flash. So
Hmm.
like Jay is great from Bayway. He just goes up to the bouncers. He's like, "You see this girl? Let her do whatever she wants.
Hmm.
Don't question her."
Yeah,
And then they'll actually let me shoot more than the three songs, which is awesome
that's
too.
cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
But sometimes, a person like Jay, he hams it up. He loves photos. So, you know, other bands, there's a lot of bands out there that don't want the photographers like up front at all. So I've been accustomed to side shooting for a while.
Ah,
I
okay.
cannot really go in the crowd and shoot. Every time I've tried it, I end up getting clobbered on.
Well, that was my, yeah, that's my next question. It had to have, and I almost, even for us, like, I was looking back at, just some videos of the show just recently, and, there's people diving off the stage and almost near you, and you have like this matrix-like reflex, I guess, of just experience, like getting out of the way of it. But you've had to have broken equipment before, right? And I hope, like, have you ever gotten hurt, unfortunately? Like, because you're in the middle of a lot of this.
I have gotten hurt back when I was like building up my experience when I was like a youngin shooting shows back in the mid 90s. Yeah, I got hurt pretty bad at an agnostic front show in New York, and I forget which one it was at, but I was on the side of the stage, and the first strum of the guitar, the entire crowd was on the stage.
Oh,
And I was on the side, so everybody went to sing along and pushed everybody from this side back. And I got pushed off backwards, landed flat on the cement,
oh,
and I got knocked out cold. Like literally it happened in 5 seconds of them starting.
oh, geez.
And I opened my eyes, I'm laying on the floor, like, and I'm literally getting trampled because everybody's, going nuts. And some guy, I still don't know who it is to this day, reached down with one arm, grabbed the front of my hoodie, lifted me up, and put me back on my feet.
Oh, wow.
And
Thankfully, right? I mean, geez, let
yeah,
alone.
and my bag was back behind one of the amps, so I went behind people and got up and I shot the rest of the set from
You still
behind
did
the
it. You
amps.
still.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
I mean, I was there for a
mean, how'd you
purpose.
feel the day later? I mean, because there was obviously a lot of adrenaline after you with that. Like, you had to have felt all that, right?
I'm sure. I
Hmm.
don't remember. I
Yeah.
probably was shooting another show the day after.
Yeah.
Probably didn't, I was like, 18 or 19. Like stuff just doesn't affect you then
Just
as
different,
much.
right? Yeah.
That was like the first time I got hurt at a show. But I got my equipment robbed at a show.
Oh,
That was at sometime, I don't know when, in 19 probably 97. Do you remember? I think it's in New Britain, Connecticut. Was it the Sports Palace there?
yeah, I know. I've heard of that place. Yep.
Yeah, it was like a big open place, but in between bands, I had bought some merch, a bunch of CDs from what's his name there from 25 to Life, Rick. Oh my
Hmm.
God, when he used to do his little side hustle selling his
Hmm.
CDs. So I bought like 10 CDs from him and went to put them out in the car. And there was like 20 minutes before the next band, so I left my camera bag, and it was a smaller one on the seat or under, it was like on the floor of my friend's car. And I came back out to get it, and her window was all smashed in, and not just her, but the car next to it, next to that, next to that. And like five cars down, they were in the process of robbing, like still breaking into a car. And I saw them and I
Oh,
ran back in. So Hatebreed was headlining that night. I ran back in and got Jamie, and I was like hysterical. I'm like, somebody's out there robbing the cars. And they all, like the whole band, and like all the guys from all the bands pretty much ran out and they saw them and chased them for God knows how long. But they had not just stolen my camera bag, but they stole like everything in her
everything
car.
you
So it was
had.
like
Yeah.
my pocketbook, and I had left work and went right from work to the show. So I actually had like, it was just a disaster. I had like, even though it wasn't my car, I had, my keys, my checkbook, like everything. And
Wow.
it was
Major stuff.
it was my first SLR. It was a Minolta X700,
Uh,
like all manual film camera, and it was my high school graduation gift from my parents.
that sucks.
It sucked so bad, but we had to go to a police that, go to the station, make a report. Her window was all smashed up. It was cold out. We had to drive home like 2 hours from Connecticut with a
Ugh.
broken window. I didn't get home till like 4 in the morning. Still lived at home with my parents, and they were not really in agreement with me because I would show them pictures and they did not like me going to hardcore shows because they were thought I was going to get hurt, and which I obviously they were right, but not hurt that bad. But yeah, my dad was pacing in the parking lot of our apartment complex and he was livid,
Yeah, well, of course.
livid. So it took me like a couple weeks. I think that was the only time that I went to a show first 2 weeks after that had happened. And I
Wow.
lost the photos I took at that show too, because obviously I never got the film,
Wow. Okay.
you know? So they could have been like the greatest photos I ever took.
But those
And
you
I'll never
don't, yeah,
know.
you just don't, you'll never know. You don't have them, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Um,
so that, and then there was another time, probably actually the first This Is Hardcore that I shot, the first band that went on, I was on the side of the stage and stage diver, like there wasn't even anybody really like going nuts yet or in front of the stage, and somebody ran across to dive and clipped me and pushed me backwards off the stage. And again,
Ooh.
that just seems to be a recurring thing. Like every time I've gotten hurt, it's because I went backwards off the stage.
Backwards off the stage. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. So yeah, I got but two guys caught me, so I didn't get hurt. That was
Good.
like awesome. But
Hmm.
lesson learned also at This Is Hardcore, I want to say it was what year was it? Now we associate things before or after COVID, and it was like the This Is Hardcore before COVID. So what would that be, like 2020?
Yeah, 20 or like right, or was it this is hardcore
Yeah.
18 or 19? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was on the side of the stage, and of all bands it was Regulate that was playing, and he was this like, his energy building up back and forth across the stage, and his elbow hit me in the mouth and chipped my tooth.
Oh, jeez. Yes, you got
I
hurt a
got it.
lot.
I
Jeez.
can't show you because I went and got it fixed like 2 days later at my
Yeah.
dentist.
Hmm.
But man, like I felt the chunk of my tooth on my tongue, and I was like, you got to be kidding me.
You knew it
It really
immediately.
wasn't
Yeah.
like super bad, but it was noticeable to me. But
You had to get it. You felt like I have to get this fixed. Yeah.
yeah, and it went into my lips, so I had like a bloody lip
Oh,
too.
jeez.
Yeah,
I'm
it
sure you
like
still
cut the
shot the
inside of
show,
my
right?
mouth.
You stayed and
I did. I went to
yes.
the bathroom, pulled the piece of my tooth out of my mouth, looked at it in the mirror, put it in my pocket, and went back out to
Well, right
finish
back in. Did
shooting.
you think? Did you think? I wanted to ask you a question because there was a little time period, right, where you couldn't go to shows because you were dealing with some
Yeah,
health stuff. Yeah, if you want to talk about that a little
yeah,
bit
I'm
more. It
gonna.
was like almost like
Uh,
a decade, I think, right?
yeah, just about.
Yeah.
But let me just tell you real quick.
Yeah, go ahead,
Back
go
to
ahead.
the last time I got hurt at a show
Hmm.
was actually last summer at the Rebirth Records showcase. Uh,
Oh, so this is just recently.
yeah, like it was during Scarab, and but they maybe played like it was the second night of the event. So I was driving home after because Philly's like a little over 2 hours, like 2.5 hours from me. So I'm not going to stay at a hotel for that. But so I literally got knocked out cold at that
Oh,
show. But I was only out for like, God, I don't even think 5 seconds, but I wasn't even on the stage. I wasn't in harm's way in any way, shape, or form. But what happened was somebody, they were going nuts. They dove off the stage and it pushed everybody backwards. And so the people in front of me pushed me back, and I was on the side of the stage. The amp, there was some on the stage, but the biggest amp was on the floor. I don't really
mhm.
know too much about equipment, so I'm assuming it was an amp, some sort of giant speaker thing. Anyway, I got pushed into it and tripped over it, fell backwards, smashed my head on a cement floor or wood floor, whatever it was. And I woke up to these, I opened my eyes, I should say, these two guys reaching down to pick me up, and one was trying to grab my camera for me, like to help me. But I didn't know what happened, so I grabbed my camera back and I was like having this struggle over my camera with him. And then I realized what happened, so I stood up and I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, I got knocked out. I had a
Yeah.
lump on my head
Oh,
and I had a concussion
yeah.
and
I
I
was
had
just
to,
thinking it had to be, right? I
yeah.
mean,
So I went like behind the stage, sat for like two or three songs to kind of collect myself. Then I went on the other side, shot the rest of their set, shot the rest of the show. By the time I left, I had this massive lump in the back of my head, and I had to drive home like that.
oh,
You know how I don't know if you've ever had a concussion, but I was super tired. I had to
yeah.
I called one of my friends and talked the whole way home to try to stay awake. And I do think that I took a day off of work after that because I like had a migraine for a couple of days.
Oh,
Awful.
yeah, the after effects of it for sure. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I can't imagine
Man.
some of the things I've seen for of people getting hurt because I'm on stage. Just I don't know how these people continuously like still stage dive,
Yeah,
and the crazy things I've seen happen to people at shows are just because I have a whole different perspective as to you being on the stage playing.
right.
But I think when you're playing, you're not really looking at stuff like that. Am I correct?
Yeah, like you're up
Yeah.
there. Sometimes you notice things. Sometimes you unfortunately don't
Yeah.
at
A
all.
couple of times I've had to like pull on somebody's like on somebody's leg, like if I'm in the photo pit, like, oh my God, like somebody just got knocked out and then they'll stop playing or, I've seen lots of bloody messes go on, lots of fights, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, that is partly why I don't shoot from the crowd. Not to mention I'm only 5 feet tall, so like what would I really see over people's heads anyway? Not
It's
too
safer
much.
too. It's
And I don't
safer.
want to be that person that's holding my arms up with my
Right.
camera, which I have to do as it is sometimes even on stage.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that's the last time I got like really hurt other than getting like, a little elbow or stepped on or
Something like that.
something
Well, that
like
sounded
that.
pretty significant, obviously,
It
Yeah,
it
so
it kind
thankfully.
of was. It kind of was.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you had to take off work and yeah, I mean for sure. Thankfully you're
Yeah.
better.
But I
So
mean,
yeah.
for the most part, people always look out for
Yeah.
me and the other photographers. I think especially me, like knowing that I, being a girl for one, and also knowing like my history of health problems, which, we'll talk about right now, but the people in hardcore are just so nice.
Yeah.
There's so many awesome, well, because you're in it too. I have met some of the greatest people and they look out for me. They really do.
Yeah.
I fell on stage during Missing Link. I tripped over a cord
Oh,
like 2 years ago, I think it was, at Black and Blue, maybe it was, and fell flat on my face. Because do you
uh,
think I had enough sense to put my hands out to break my fall? No, because my main concern was I
The
wanted to
camera?
hold my camera.
I knew
So
you were going to say that.
instead
Yeah.
of smashing my camera, I smashed my face.
Oh,
So they literally stopped playing, which was even more embarrassing, and picked me, like helped me up and brought me to the side, made sure I was okay and everything. And I was like mortified. I was just,
uh,
I was so embarrassed. Not really that I tripped, but more that they had to stop playing to
stop the
help
show.
me.
But I'm sure you finished shooting the show, didn't you? Of course, right?
I did.
You did.
I did, of
I
course,
knew you were going to do that.
always. But yeah, so back like 20 years ago, I started having some digestive issues and I was going to the doctor for, continuously for months and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Ended up at a gastro doctor. I was having like really bad pains on my right side and one weekend it just completely escalated and I started like basically just hemorrhaging
Oh,
blood out of like, you know, I guess I'm not embarrassed to talk about it now, but out of my butt,
mm,
like black tarry blood.
oh,
So I went to the ER and they told me I had food poisoning. Okay, whatever. So I go
food
home. They say
poisoning.
you'll be fine in a few days. Ended up back at the ER like two or three more times after, within a week's time. They kept sending me home saying it was food poisoning. They ran tests, everything was negative. So you just have to recover. It must have been really bad. And I had actually eaten a burger at, what was it, Red Robin
Okay. Yeah.
the night before this started happening to me. So I was like, oh, maybe it is food poisoning. Who the heck knows? So sicker and sicker and sicker over like just 6 or 7 days. Sorry for my dog barking.
Okay.
So I end up one night I'm laying on my couch and my hands and like my hands, my feet, everything like go numb and they were crippled like all bent like this and I
Wow.
couldn't move. And my best friend was coming over. She worked for me at the salon and we'll talk about the salon in a little bit, but she was like my best friend and she was going to college for medical stuff. So she was actually on her way over just to hang out.
Thankfully.
And she walked in my door and I was like I was like hysterical. I was like, I think I'm paralyzed. You know what I mean? Because, I was 28 then and had have like literally had I never even got the flu or anything. Never got sick, never had a medical problem up till this. So I just
Is this,
instantly
I
thought I was
apologize. Did this just come or this was like a
out of
grad? It sounds
nowhere.
like it just kind of happened. Like,
Like I just had some pains on my side here and there that I went to the doctor for them to check out and they couldn't find anything. So they were like,
okay.
maybe you have gas, maybe it's stress. You know, they sent me for like a sonogram at one point and nothing showed up. And blood work was fine and everything else was fine. So yeah, so my hands and feet were all like crippled up. I couldn't move them. So I have still to this day same lady, proud to say I've kept a lot of my clients for over 30 years. So I have a client that's a doctor and she was a hospitalist.
Okay.
And I had for some reason, I had one of her business cards on my desk. So Marianne runs and calls her and she's like, get her in the car right away. I'm going to have her pre-admitted. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? So Marianne and my neighbor like carried me to the car. I get to the hospital. They're waiting outside for me with a stretcher. They bring me in, hooking me up to all this stuff, doing blood work. Within 5 minutes, they said my potassium was a point 0.9.
Wow.
I don't know what that means. Apparently, it can send you into a seizure then, and
Yeah.
it could be like deadly at that level. So I had been so severely dehydrated from I couldn't eat anything that week because it would just go right through me. And I had, like black, tarry blood coming out. So they run all these tests. I get admitted. I ended up being in ICU for 10 days. And when I
Wow.
came out, my life has never been the same.
Wow.
I ended up being diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, but it was like an extremely severe case. my the entire large, it's called pan ulcerative colitis. It's my whole large intestine from the very beginning all the way to the rectum was
Wow.
completely ulcerated and bleeding. So I was going to a not so great doctor just to sum this up for a while, and it took me a really long time to get on the right medication for it, and that ended up being a medication called mercaptopurine, which they use for like RA and other autoimmune problems. But the version of or the type of ulcerative colitis I have is autoimmune. Because it can be caused from many different reasons, but it ended up slowly developing into over years' time Crohn's disease. So now I have ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, which, in all honesty, I'm convinced that I had Crohn's the whole time and it just affected because Crohn's is your entire digestive tract. It can be anywhere.
Hmm.
I think I had Crohn's in my large intestine is what I think. But I ended up having finding a great doctor and I'm still with him to this day.
Great.
But I've had a lot of secondary illnesses from all the medications. So I was on, high doses of steroids and in and out of the hospital with bad flare-ups and yada yada for about a 10-year period before it got like somewhat under control. And when I say under control, I mean where I could at least work a full day or stand up at a show for like 3 or 4 hours because that was like my biggest problem. I remember like 6 months after I got sick, I tried to go shoot Cave in Albany,
Just couldn't do it,
and
right?
I shot like 2 or 3 songs, and actually I'm glad I went because those are the pictures I got of Caleb playing upside down while hanging from a pipe,
No.
which was super awesome. And rest in peace to Caleb. But yeah, it was so difficult to stand. I had no energy for the longest time, and I missed out on a lot of the hardcore scene from like say 2026 or 2006 to maybe 2015.
Yeah, it's a long
Um,
time.
and I did shoot Burning Fight Fest in Chicago when he was doing that. And do you remember the Burning Fight book that
Yeah.
came out? Yeah, so I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, but he had approached me and Todd and a few other staple photographers from the 90s that to come out and shoot the festival. And so I drove out there and stayed and that was the biggest show that I had shot in between there. But oh my God, I forgot all about this. I got knocked out at that show too
Oh, oh my
during Have
God.
Heart. And that was the first time I had actually seen or heard Have Heart at all because when they first came out, it was during my when I was like really severely ill with the UC and I couldn't even leave my house for a while. I missed like 6 months of work
Wow.
and it was like really severe. I lost a lot of blood. I had to have a blood transfusion because I lost like 3 pints of blood
Wow.
during that first ICU stay. Had a really hard time adjusting back to regular life after that. For over a year, I couldn't stand in the shower. Like,
Wow.
that's how weak I was. I had lost, like, I went down to like 90 pounds and I was trying to find my rhythm and my way of being trying to find normalcy again.
Yeah.
Like, what can I eat? What can I eat? I knew nothing about any illnesses because I was young and I didn't have experience with it. I didn't have any friends with any digestive problems or whatever, but I still went out and shot that Burning Fight Fest somehow. And I got knocked out during Have Heart by somebody that, a stage diver, and their foot clipped me.
Oh. So I want, you're talking about
But
all this, and it's really amazing, all this adversity that it wasn't just like a quick thing that you dealt with medically. It's ongoing and still stuff what you're dealing with today. At what point did you start feeling, not even talking, you're going to shows, you're shooting shows. I'm seeing you're doing that still. You're doing all that, but you have your business, right? At the same time, but comfortable with day-to-day living, or your guard's always up with this still.
oh, I still I'm on I struggled with the biologics. I did not want to take a biologic because I had other friends at, fast forward 3 years, like my friend Yurgo that did a lot of my tattoos, he had really severe Crohn's disease. And him and a friend of his that had really severe UC, and they actually referred me to to my doctor I'm at now. But they had a really hard time with after the biologics. It really changes your body, and you become like end up having other illnesses, like or
Mm.
ailments, I should say, from these medications. So I held out as long as I could until I had to try them. And so I went through, I'll spare you all the details, but I went through a whole slew of them where they didn't work. The one that caused me the most problems was Skyrizi.
Mm.
That one I was on for a while, and it was actually making me worse than better. And I had to go for the infusions in the beginning, and then you have to do the self injections at home. And that was like what they call an auto injector. So it's like a whole contraption that you basically have to tape on you, and it takes 5 minutes for the medicine to go into you. And it's just like it's really humbling because, you have to plan your everyday living around this stuff. Like, I could, when I was on the Skyrizi, like, I would have to either travel with a whole cooler thing with me if I flew somewhere, or, I just couldn't go places because, you have to take your medication at a certain time. But thankfully, I finally caved and went on Rinvoq. And that medicine, I am the closest I feel to normal.
Okay, that's great.
But fast
Mm.
last year when I started it, the mercaptopurine that I was on for years, that was the one medicine that allowed me to be somewhat normal. It like took, I would say, maybe 75% of my symptoms away, but it wasn't a cure in
Hmm.
any way, shape, or form. I still had daily struggles with it, but that medicine lowers your immunity
Oh,
as well as the steroids. So I'm prone to getting shingles now, and when you're on some medicines like that, you can't get vaccinated. So I have not gotten the shingles vaccine yet. And I went to where is it? I went to a couple shows and I got sick when I first started it. I got like a bad cold, and my doctor had said to me, "You're probably going to get shingles when you first start this because you're on a pretty high loading dose." So this was back in November. So I go to a show, I end up getting a cold, and like 2 weeks later, I'm in the kitchen and I felt nerve pain in my leg. And I'm like,
uh,
motherfucker,
mm.
I'm getting shingles again. And my husband's like, no, you're being paranoid. I'm like, no, same spot I got it when I got a broken rib shooting Biohazard, which I forgot about till now. When they came back and did those shows at Irving Plaza, I got a
Oh,
broken
a couple
rib.
of years ago, yeah.
Yeah, trying to take a picture of the drummer in between the stage and the barricade. That was a funny story. The bouncer was on I guess what is it? There's like a step in the backside of the barricade, so he was on there trying to grab like a crowd surfer or whatever and help him over, and he slipped off the back of the he slipped off that step, and the two of them went backwards, and I had my arms up like this, trying to shoot the drummer because I'm only 5 feet tall,
Mm.
and they smashed into me. And my rib, the top of the stage was like right here where the rib is, and I literally cracked my rib.
Oh,
And right after that, because it's like trauma to your body, and I'm on, that's when I was on the mercaptopurine, I ended up with shingles, really severe case of it. That was my second time having it. So I felt pain in the same spot, and I knew it was shingles. I was right. I called, got on the medicine right away. And it never turned into like a bad case, but apparently the medicine that you're on for shingles, I think it was the Valtrex, can cause kidney stones, which I'm prone to for whatever reason.
okay.
I've had the first time I had kidney stones was when I got, I don't know if you remember the whole GoFundMe thing when I got all my camera equipment robbed for the second time on a train in
I
Switzerland,
do.
but
Mhm.
I had had an emergency kidney surgery from stones when I was supposed to take my flight out there. And so I was on like all this medicine out and I had this surgery, went to Switzerland anyway, which was probably not a good idea. But I was all groggy and fell asleep on the train, and that's when my camera bag got stolen.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I had kidney stones then. So fast forward to now, I gotta sum this up, make it shorter, but I ended up getting kidney stones from that medicine from shingles that I got from getting the cold at a show, and it just like snowballed. So I started peeing blood back in December.
Oh,
Go to
geez.
my kidney doctor, and they wrote me a script for imaging. And he said you probably got stones again. I had a 17 and a 12 millimeter kidney stone in the same kidney. Got my results of the imaging like right before I was going down to FYA. And
It was like a
he's
few
like,
months ago.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm in recovery still. But mind you, I'm tying this all into going to shows and traveling to shows.
Mm.
So I went to FYA anyway, against my husband's will. They scheduled the surgery because I ended up, they were too big for the lipotripsy. I had to have a surgery where they removed them through my back. So, like, surgically remove them through my back. So I go to FYA with these giant kidney stones. But I told everybody, and everybody was like super nice. Because if I got like kicked in my
Yeah, that's
abdomen
not
area,
good.
it would have been an awful situation. So I was taking care of myself, and I did, I was good for it. I didn't even have that much pain, just a little bit of pain. So I come back and I have the surgery, and then I had to I had to be in the hospital for like 5 days because there was complications, yada yada. I'll
Wow.
spare you the details. But I was able to get the stent taken out of me like 4 days before I had to go shoot Hellfest in California. So I have to
So
say I
you went in
lucked out with
February
the
to that too. Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
with the timing of my surgeries and procedure really worked out well. I still got to shoot my festivals.
You still still got to go to the festivals. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Wow. And and you're still like very upbeat, positive, you're dealing with so much. Like my question also is like with your this, um, hair salon and like your business and stuff with all that, like how did that go about? Because with the way you're describing the pain and the feeling and all the stuff you're going through, you couldn't have been there, you
I was
know?
It's very difficult when when I travel to the shows, which I love traveling to festivals and shows. I'm not going to fly somewhere just for one show, but the Hellfest week was great. It was
Yeah.
like you had 3 days of Hellfest and then two shows 2 nights before that is totally worth it. And it was just an amazing, amazing show. People should not miss the one in Jersey this summer. Fabulous lineup. Kudos to Josh. And if there's another Hellfest West, which I'm hoping there is, I am not going to miss any of that. I don't care if like they have to take my kidney out beforehand. I'm still going to be there. But as far as work is concerned, it really sucks when when you have your own business. I don't get any paid sick time off,
Right.
you know? So luckily I have the most fabulous assistant now. She was actually just my receptionist for a few years, and then I talked her into going to cosmetology school. So now she's my assistant, and she was just experienced enough to be able to take over most of my clients when I was gone. Plus, all my clients know her from working in the shop from the past 5 years. So she was a huge help. And my other girl, who's also named Danielle, that works for me, she picked up some of the slack. And I'm very lucky to have people like that in my life.
Well, you
And
need that, right?
a
Right?
great clientele that they totally understand. Like,
Great.
your life, your health is worth it. You can reschedule, fit me in whenever you
That's
want.
great.
Yeah, but I'm booked like 3 to 6 months out for,
That's awesome.
So when something like that happens and it's an emergency, it really does put a wrench in things. I mean, if I just have a cold or something like that and I don't want to go in and infect people, I can just push them off till like I'll come in on my days off Sunday and Monday or stay late the next week,
But when
whatever.
you're dealing with significant, what you were
Yeah.
describing, that's a much different story.
Yeah, I ended up missing 2 weeks of work, and to be honest, I should have missed more. I
Mm.
should have stayed home and recovered more because that tube into the back is like the most excruciating
Yeah.
surgery.
Yeah.
It's actually, if you look it up on, I guess there's some kind of scale of most painful and most involved surgeries. It's like in the top five, supposedly. It's worse than they say childbirth, which I don't have any kids, so I wouldn't know that. But yeah, so I was in the hospital, doped up on with some IV painkillers, which was awful because I just slept the whole time.
Yeah.
I had this grand plan that my doctor told me it's fairly invasive, but I have a high tolerance for pain. So in my mind, it's like it's a fairly invasive surgery. You really need to take a week off. And that was before I had complications, at least a week off of work. So I'm like, all right, I'll do that. But in my mind, I was going to sit on my computer the whole time and work on FYI photos, and I couldn't do it. I
Yeah, it was
still have
that.
a bunch to work on. I literally couldn't even, I was in the hospital, like I couldn't even sit up.
Wow.
That's how much pain. There was a tube going right into my back, about a half-inch big too,
Ooh.
straight through your back and straight into your raw kidney.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was
Okay.
extremely painful. So I couldn't sit up even to work on my photos. I
And for
couldn't
you
even keep
not
my
to,
eyes
and
open.
you're tough. I mean, like you are with all
Yeah.
the honestly concussions you've had and everything you just described with medically for the last decade or even longer than that. For you, it must have been painful for you not to be able to um, go through those photos like you're describing with the FYA Fest.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I apologize to all the bands that I haven't gotten them to you yet, but I'm working on it slowly. And
Mm.
also Hellfest, but or I mean I should say Hellfest West. I still have a bunch of those to sort through. And I think I have a problem when it comes to my processing. I am like way too I don't know, I'm like a type A personality, way too OCD. Like I have this whole, what I really need to do is just pull like 10 or 20 photos from the set that I think are great and just do those. But instead, I'm hell-bent on sending a whole set to the band,
Mm.
just like I used to do when I would get doubles printed from Walmart way back in the day.
That's your process though. But your
You
turnaround
know,
time is incredible though. Like for the show
you
that
think
I could
because
use
I
for
feel
example
like
for us, like 2 days later you sent over all those photos, you know. So
I know, but there's some photographers that have them out there like the next morning, like all the bands, or I can't do that. Like I still have like half of the Hellfest bands and maybe a third of the
FYA.
FYA, and
Mhm.
even still some from This Is Hardcore to get done.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a
But
lot. And well, and you know, obviously quadruple it almost in a way, right? Because there's so many bands that are on them.
yeah, and it's really hard too having your own business when I take off for shows. People don't realize like we don't get paid for this stuff.
Hmm.
It's just like I just love doing it.
Love it.
Not about money. But when I travel for a show, I have to pay for everything out of my pocket. And not just pay for it, but I'm double because I'm losing income. I
Right,
don't
from
have any
your
sick
day
or
job.
personal days.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
If I'm not behind the chair, I'm not making any money.
right.
So, you know, I try to like be cost effective, like, for Hellfest coming up, I'm getting a group of people together to share an Airbnb, and that's close enough where I'm driving, so I don't have to have, a flight and or Ubers and all that kind of stuff too.
Hmm.
But yeah, it can cost a lot, and like Hellfest West was, it was a good amount of money to go out there. So I
Traveling's
try to,
expensive now.
yeah, I
So
try to, uh, I try to build up, airline miles and get free flights when I can, but yeah, if anybody ever wants to buy any prints from me to help me like offset the cost, I'll do that. Some people have like donated me a little bit of money for like
No.
the entire Dropbox link. And that's actually easy, there's some bands that are like, "Oh, how much do you want for that?" I'm like, "Oh, don't worry about it, whatever." And I've had people just donate like, $25 or $50 or give me, a record or a hoodie or something. I'm totally grateful for that.
Uh,
But I just do it because I love doing it.
mm,
And I like to travel too. I like traveling even when it's not for a hardcore show. I just love
yeah.
to travel. But the furthest I've traveled for a show is I went to the Netherlands for the Sound of Revolution in 2018, and I went by myself. I flew out there by myself.
Oh,
I have a
wow. That's
cousin. I have a
far.
cousin that lives in Europe for work. Like she's from Jersey, but where my mom's family is all from, but she lives in Switzerland now. So, she was she gave me a few like nice places to stay and actually we'll talk about other photographers too that I've met and become friends with over the years, but I got to meet some of my Europe photographer friends over there, which was super awesome and shoot
Yeah,
with
that's
them.
cool.
Like Michelle, I don't know how to say her last name. Olaya, I
Mm.
think it is. And Josie Hoffman and Ann Moss, just people that I've talked to, I mean, since the 90s, back to like AOL Instant Messenger days, like especially Michelle.
Mhm.
So I stayed in Amsterdam for a couple nights just because it was my birthday weekend, just to explore, and did some silly little tours and walked around and did that kind of stuff. Then I took a train from there to Eindhoven and I stayed by myself, but I met Michelle at the train station. It was super awesome to finally meet her in person. And it's funny because when you like hardcore is such a close community, like around the world, literally. Like I probably, I mean, half the bands that were playing were American bands. So,
Mm.
that year, Earth Crisis played, and I've been good friends with them for years, so that was awesome. Just I can't even think of everybody I knew over there, but just so many, I knew so many people there, and it was just such a blast. Uh, and then I traveled, so that's the first time I went to a fest in Europe. But then, I love traveling down, even though it's just driving for This Is Hardcore, staying overnight, 3 days. I make like a little vacation out of it.
Yeah.
Also, FYA, staying with some of my photographer friends there. We share an Airbnb and I've shot out in Detroit, Tied Down. That's a great fest. And like I said, Hellfest, and This Is Hardcore from here. I have not yet shot Sound and Fury. I would love to.
Okay.
So maybe I'll try to get out to that this year. That would be awesome. But when I travel around and shoot these festivals, I meet so many great photographers. Like when I shot Nate Fest when Nate was sick, that's where I met JC Carey and he's become one of my best friends through the years. Amazing photographer. If you don't follow him, you should. He's JC Photo Media. My friend Jeff Lasish, who I'm great friends with today, we stay together. We travel to FYA, and This Is Hardcore. Usually share an apartment, Airbnb, whatever. He's Start Today zine. Todd Pollock as well. Eye of the Storm. He's great, and like you mentioned before, Carl Gunhouse. Although
Yeah.
I don't really see Carl outside of the New York area, is it's hard for a lot of people to travel for shows.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
people that don't own their own business, they can't really take off of work all
It's
the
tough.
time.
It's
Yeah.
tough. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
tough. It has to be. Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, as far as like other photographers, like you mentioned BJ Pappas earlier,
yeah.
um she was one of my main influences. I just absolutely and she's just such a wonderful person. I got to meet her in person like 6 or 7 years ago, and we've been friends ever since.
It's awesome.
Maybe it was longer, but I love her and also like John McCaig was a big influencer of like my shutter drag style. He was doing that back in the 90s. Yeah, but Hardcore is just a great community, great bands, great people, great photographer, and other artists as well, people that design layouts and posters and flyers and uh, t-shirts and everything. It's just, I don't know when the day will come when I can say I shot my last show. I might be out there when I'm friggin' 75 years old with my camera. Just like I'm pretty sure I'm going to be cutting somebody's hair on my front porch then too. Maybe one thing I should mention is I have shot some non-hardcore stuff too,
Mhm.
which is always a little weird to me. But a lot of my hair clients follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and they're always like, you know, that shit that you do is crazy. Like those bands are nuts, and to me, it's normal. Like I see it all the time, so it's just normal. But then you go shoot something that they would go to, and I'm like, wow, I guess hardcore really is crazy.
We're just used to it.
We're just used to it. Yeah, we're just so used to it. But some of the music I've shot that was not hardcore is one time I shot Ted Nugent at the Chance in Poughkeepsie.
Cool.
That was pretty cool. Um, Joe Satriani. Um, I shot Ginger once. I mean, they're metalish, but also Megadeth. And then really an odd thing to shoot is I have some friends from high school that became like kind of popular radio DJs. And that was kind of cool shooting them with their, whole setup with their computer and their records and whatever. And there are some DJs in some hardcore bands now. I mean, like that one guy that was in Vane for a while. And then I Promise the World has like a keyboardist and he has some sort of computer DJ like get up thing. Like I said, I don't know a lot about the instruments, but yeah, that's definitely interesting shooting some stuff like that.
Yeah, it's got to be cool. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be cool to do all that and all those different bands and the classic rock bands too. On top of that, you went from Ted Nugent to Megadeth to Hatebreed. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I tried to like I mentioned earlier, Bethel Woods is near me and I that's where I got to shoot Megadeth. Those photos are actually, if you scroll down, they're on my Instagram and that was really awesome. Robert Plant was on tour, and he played Bethel, and I put in for it, and I got cut. They allowed 10 photographers, and I was the 11th one on the list. Do you know how heartbroken I was over that?
Oh, yeah, especially like right, look what we started off talking about, like with Led Zeppelin. Oh
Yep.
man.
I was, I was like so. I would actually, I was such a powder about it that I didn't even go because I
I
couldn't
get
handle it.
that.
I was
I
like, I
do.
can't.
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't want to go and like not be able to shoot it. And it's funny because there's not really that many concerts that I went to that I haven't shot. Because even like I went to see Sting at Bethel Woods and I got second row seats on the aisle,
Mm.
like one section over from center. So I was really freaking close to him. And the iPhones aren't bad for like regular photos nowadays, like just snapshots. I can tell you, I got some really amazing photos of
Cool.
Sting with my phone because I was so close, and the lighting at Bethel Woods is great. Uh, I'll have to send them to you when we get done, but
Cool.
they were pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah, for taking them with my phone. So I don't really want to include that on like my list of shooting them, but I did shoot
That
them,
was
so to
close.
speak, with my phone. But
Uh, yeah, I would say that counts. That's cool.
yeah.
Um,
But what else can we talk about here? You have any other questions you wanted to
yeah,
ask?
I have. So now what I have is just there are a bunch of questions. They're random in nature, but like ways that you could choose between certain things, but also certain things it's really like about you, as well. So what
Okay.
I'll start and ask you is what are your top three favorite albums of all time? And it doesn't have to just be hardcore.
Oh my God. My top three albums probably of all time
Hmm.
If I had to only pick three, I would definitely say Led Zeppelin 1.
I knew that would be there. Yeah.
Yep, that's probably my favorite ever. Maybe Bring Me the Horizon, Sepultura, if I said that right. And then I really love, if I'm gonna throw like somebody from the hardcore scene, I have to tell you that Quicksand Slip,
Oh, good one. Yeah.
classic.
Hmm.
And it's something that is a record that I could play. I could play it in my salon. I could play it to my family and my non-hardcore friends and the most hardcore people in my life. And
Hmm.
it's just a classic.
Hmm.
You can't not like that album. So that would probably be, if I had to choose three, my
Those three.
top three. But yeah, I could probably ramble off like
More.
50.
There's always
But
more, right? There's always more. But those are three completely different ones. A band or artist you like that may surprise people.
you're gonna laugh at this one, but like my favorite artist in the world is Shakira.
That's
I
awesome.
love Shakira. I just friggin' like, if I ever got to shoot Shakira, I'm not even sure if I could handle it. That would be like, I just absolutely love everything about her. I think she's just a wonderful human being. I love her. Of course, I love her hair
Mhm.
and I love her music and the way she dances and her voice. And I just think she's just such a great person. And recently I've become a fan of Taylor Swift, believe it or not.
I'm with you. I'm a big fan. I
Yeah.
am. Oh, I am. Yeah.
Yep. But as far as, I like a lot of other types of, I actually, and I'm going to be honest with this, I don't, when I'm home, listen to a lot of hardcore.
Hmm.
I listen to hardcore when I'm on long drives
Hmm.
or, at shows. But outside of that, I listen to a shit ton of classic rock, like 90s rock. I love 80s pop music.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you can't go wrong with like friggin' the Bengals and Cyndi Lauper, old school Madonna, you know, Tina Turner, Michael Jackson, even like, more kiddish music like Debbie Gibson and stuff and
Hmm.
Tiffany and all that.
Uh-huh.
So,
Cool.
yeah, I like all that kind of stuff.
I mean, you might have said it in honestly within the last 10 minutes, but I'm going to ask anyway. There's a band that you haven't had the opportunity to shoot yet, and I mean, I know you just said Shakira, because we were talking about like an
Yeah.
artist that you like. They haven't surprised yet. You almost got Robert Plant too. I feel like that might be one of them, but I figured let me just still that ask that if there's any, even if there's something else that maybe you'd want to mention.
Let's put a realistic perspective because
Hmm.
I'm nowhere near, it's not like I work for Rolling Stone or the
Right,
Associated
right, right.
Press or anything like that. So it's not like I'm going to be able to, you know, go shoot Taylor Swift or something.
Hmm.
I like, that's just not ever going to happen. I mean, I don't want to say ever because you never know, but somebody that I would be able to shoot that I haven't had the opportunity to, that I am dying to, is Chain of Strength.
Oh, okay.
I love Chain of Strength. Always have since the 90s. And I missed out when they played FYA Fest. I wasn't shooting FYA yet. And I'm just super bummed. So if you guys are listening to this, I would love for you to play again.
Hmm.
And no matter where it is, I will travel to it.
And you do, right? And you do, so for
Yep.
sure. Okay. A couple more. Small venue or big stages? Like what do you like? What do you like in terms of when you have to shoot a show?
I'd prefer a smaller venue, but like not so small to where I don't have a safe place to stand.
Of course, yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
like I really liked shooting at St. Vitus in Brooklyn. I'm so bummed that that place closed.
Yeah, already
Uh,
showed. That was a good spot.
yeah, and like Amityville is great. Yeah, this I'd have to say the semi-small venues I would prefer.
Cool. This
Yeah.
is not really a make a choose between this or that or anything, but more just like hobbies do you have? You're obviously very your art, your art, you're creative. But what hobbies do you have?
Oh my God.
Mm.
Some random shit. Like I'm super into crafts, so um I've been making jewelry and like friendship bracelets and stuff uh since I was like probably 5 years old, coloring, painting. I started doing resin stuff a few years back, crocheting. Yeah, as far as oh, and I started doing glass stuff too because I collect glass vases and glass paperweights. So I started taking some glass making classes, and I really loved that. Like if I could take off work for a month and go up to the Corning glass factory, and they do like 4 to 6 week classes you can take. I would love to do that someday. I just think it's super awesome. And then I also have weird hobbies of I collect a bunch of weird stuff like paperweights and vases, but
Huh.
also like keychains, and I started collecting these tree of life things. Yeah, little things like that. But and some weird like interests that I have that are I guess kind of a little different. For me, I guess for me, people might not know it, but I'm super into cars, like sports cars. Like if I could be a race car driver along once, and it was just amazing. It was like so cool to climb in the window and to ride on the same or drive on the same track as them. That's
Mm.
super
That's
awesome.
cool. Yeah, especially if like
Um,
you have an interest in that. That's amazing.
yeah, and I absolutely love, and a lot of my people actually comment when I'm at shows now. Anything sparkly, so I'm usually wearing some sort of an outfit with rhinestones on it, or the rhinestone sneakers or something like that. Um, and I really like, I'm like obsessed with true crime stuff. I watch the ID channel all the time and like Law and Order type of shows, like SVU, Chicago PD, all that kind of stuff. And but the funniest thing I'm really interested in that people think I'm nuts is I'm super into that show, Ancient Aliens.
Oh, I know that one. Yeah, okay. Hmm.
Yeah. So I actually went to a seminar that Giorgio was at, and I met him. You know, the guy with the crazy hair?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So super nice guy, but he's from only like 45 minutes away from me. And he actually went to Ithaca College where I went for a little bit. So um that's just like a little weird interest of mine.
Oh, that's cool. And you
And I
do all
really,
that.
really love I really love the weather and I love animals. So it was super cool when I started flying my drone. I'd love to get into drone photography a little bit more, but I'm out there trying to get pictures of storms when they come in and lightning, which I have yet to catch like a full-on lightning strike, so that's like a bucket list thing for me. But yeah, when I was young, I used to want to be a meteorologist. I used
Oh,
to watch
cool.
Jim Pantori like all
Uh-huh.
the time. I would
Cool.
switch between MTV and the Weather Channel when I was young.
That's what you're interested in. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Daniel, thank you so much. Honestly, this is such a cool conversation. Most importantly, glad that you're doing well. That's the most important thing. And all your interests that you have, your career obviously as well, the photography you're doing, just keeps you going and going. Is there anything else that you want to end with? You want to that you site you want to direct people to, Instagram account, all that kind of stuff.
well, if anybody's interested in seeing like any of what I do outside of work, you can check out my salon Instagram.
Mhm.
It's hair design by Danielle 845. Um, and my wedding photography, which is it's daniellesweddinggallery.com. Yeah, okay. So if anyone's interested in checking out my non-hardcore photography and want to see like my wedding photography, it's daniellesweddinggallery.com.
Cool. Awesome.
Um, and my regular Instagram for all my hardcore shit is Danielle Dombrowski Photography.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Danielle, yep, Daniel, thank you so much. Just hang tight here. I'm going to sign us off, and then once we're finished up, we'll chat up a little bit more. Okay.
all right, cool.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the What Lies Ahead podcast, which is available on all streaming platforms. Go save the What Lies Ahead podcast playlist on Spotify that features bands that were on the show. For more information on future episodes, you can go to my Instagram account and follow at What Lies Ahead _ podcast and on Facebook by searching What Lies Ahead podcast.